Good morning, everyone. Another happy day in the neighborhood. The lake is still way too high, but it is going down a little bit from yesterday. I don't know if it's going to continue that trend because we got some rain north of us. It sprinkled a little bit here, not enough to really do much, enough to make things too wet outside. I could have gone outside and sat at the bench, but it's 45 degrees. It's still not quite there. We're supposed to have another week of cold weather. Not as cold as it was a month ago, but we're still going to be cold. So I look forward to the time I can go outside and record. All right. In another week, this place will start having people show up. What are we looking at? Yeah. Next week. We'll be ready. And all this rain has helped clean up the park, so that's good. So, we know we're supposed to trust God, right? That's part of the whole thing. That's part of faith. But one of the things that many of us have a hard time giving up is our finances. So we have to trust God with our finances. After all, it's not our money, it's His. As Christians, it's His. Before that, it was still His, but it was being taken by non-Christians, and now, as Christians, He gives us what we need. Since He's in charge of our own personal timeline, helping us to get to where we need to be, it's up to Him. So if you think you need something, if the money's not there, think again. So let's take a look at some quick verses. Again, I got to try to keep this short. Somewhere out there is still my antenna base. I don't want to order another one, but I am going to try to get they have a pole that will go up in the air, 15 feet. I'm going to put the antenna on that. It will definitely help out if we get another flood. I won't have to go move the antenna. But next time, I'll move the whole thing, the base too. Anyhow, Psalms 24:1. A Psalm of David. The earth is the Lord's and all of its fullness. The earth is the Lord's. So is there anything on this earth you can claim is not the Lord's? Everything. The world and those who dwell in it. For He has founded it upon the seas and established it upon the waters. Who may ascend to the hill of the Lord? Who can climb the mountain? We've only had a couple of people in history that were worthy to do that, and they were invited. Or who may stand in His holy place? Again, a very small group. And who has clean hands and a pure heart? Well, hopefully we have part of that anyway, but the heart is wicked, and as we're told. But you can clean your hands. But that's not what it means figuratively. Remember, Pilate washed his hands of the whole affair. I'm watching Kitty play, so he may come over here in a little bit. We'll see. Pure hands and a pure heart, who has not lifted up his soul to an idol. They all worshipped idols back then. It was commonplace because they didn't know what God was, so they created what the best of their minds could come up with what God was. So they made idols. Abram, before he became Abraham, lived with his family, with his father. And it says that his father had idols. That's Kitty running around. Get him, Kitty. Get him, Kitty. who has not lifted up his soul to an idol, nor sworn deceitfully. He shall receive a blessing of the Lord and righteousness from the God of his salvation. This is Jacob, the generation of those who seek him, who seek your face. Selah, which is the end of a prayer. Psalms is a combination of wise sayings and prayers and just good things to think about. So, things that you can sing a lot of times. They would sound so much better in the original Hebrew than in our English, but they can be sung. And we have made, some artists have made songs out of the Bible, different parts of it. So familiar verses that we should all know. Matthew 6:25. Therefore I say to you, do not worry about your life, what you shall eat and what you shall drink, nor about your body, what you will put on. Is not life more important than food, and the body more than clothing? And it goes on to talk about how God takes care of the lilies of the field and the birds and all the animals and stuff. He takes care of them. They don't have to worry. And we're more important to God than all that. I am drinking my coffee. I was reading a report that says that coffee is good. Of course, you can put garbage in it, but coffee is good. I put a fake sweetener and a powdered dairy in there. It's not dairy. It's just, I don't like black coffee. But mine, I'm still drinking pumpkin flavored. It's still winter. I'll switch when we get to springtime. All right, 2 Corinthians 9:8. And God is able to make all grace abound toward you. He's already set out the timeline. He knows where everything is going to happen. And he puts you in the right place as long as you're paying attention. All grace abound towards you, that you always have all sufficiency. Always having all sufficiency. Always and all are not leaving any doubt. Efficiency in all things. Being very specific here. Paul writing to the Corinthians. May have an abundance for every good work. Everything that you're supposed to do for God, God will supply. Now, your own personal needs and wants, He is a doting Father who wants to make sure that we're happy. We will often get things that we're not supposed to have, just as you might give your kids something they're not supposed to have, just because they want it. You know that they won't appreciate it and will eventually drop it because you know your kids. God knows us. Philippians 4:19. And my God shall supply all your need according to His riches in the glory by Christ Jesus. So, Jesus paid the price. We don't have... Oh, I was going to try to pick up Kitty, but he ran off too quick. Kitty, kitty. Meow. And he just flips over on his back. Whenever a cat flips over on their back, they're comfortable. Meow. But he's on the floor, and I'm not going to go get him. Kitty, kitty. In about another month, sometime towards the end of March, I've got to go get him fixed. It will control his behavior a little bit. All your animals should be fixed unless they're breeding animals. There are so many animals that are abandoned or left to do whatever they want to do, and there's too many in various pounds. Oh, he just jumped up to bite me. I got him. Get my foot. You can bite my foot. You can't hurt me. I got to go into town and buy me another pair of tennis shoes. I tried to buy them online, but I can't find Amazon doesn't carry cheap tennis shoes. I'm not paying $60 for a pair of cloth shoes. There we go. I got the kitty. I got the kitty. There we go. He's biting. He's biting. He's biting, so I'm not holding him very long. I buy $20 tennis shoes. They have to only last a year. If I bought $110 tennis shoes, they'd only last a year. Be frugal with God's money. And finally, well, that's not fun. I got 2 more verses. And you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he swore to your fathers, as it is in this day. It's still ongoing. All the covenants are still in effect. God doesn't get rid of a covenant. He might update it or replace it with a better covenant, which is what he's done. We are to sacrifice for our sins. It's a covenant. It's a law of Moses. So Jesus is that sacrifice. So we're to offer him every day. Pre-Jesus, they couldn't do that. They had to take their sacrifice to the temple and offer it to God. It only covered up the sin. It never got rid of it. But with Jesus, whatever your sin of the past is, if you confess it, it's gone. Oh, he still wants to play, but he plays with his teeth. And I scrounged around and got my bag out of the car that had all my work clothes in it. I used to wear suit and tie to work. When I was acting, I would typically be a businessman type. And so I've got all those clothes out now. I haven't dug out my ties yet, so I'll put a tie on. I felt the need to try to... I know I'm camping, but I'm in a trailer now, so I don't feel like I'm camping like I was when I was in a tent. So I'm going to try to clean up a little bit. I could be sitting here in shorts. It's like the newscasters sometimes. From the waist down, they're wearing their yellow golf pants. And their shoes, not their golf shoes, because those would tear up the floor, but their shoes you get around in before you put your golf shoes on. But above, they're wearing a nice shirt and tie and maybe a jacket. It's all illusion. I have jeans on. I need another pair of jeans too, by the way. Now that I can actually have some room to put stuff, I can do that. And I've got my vacuum cleaner now, so I'm starting to clean up. Getting rid of the things. I'm opening cabinets and finding out what's in there and cleaning them out. There's a lot of cabinet space I haven't been using because, frankly, it's dirty inside. It's been sitting for 2 years, this trailer. And I'm getting tired of the view behind me. I almost wish I could green screen it. But I don't have, my program on my phone doesn't allow for green screening. So I might look at another recorder, one that will let me do green screening. What I used to do before, and this was kind of a way of cheating, I've got one more verse to read, I'll get to it. But you use the tools that you can make available. I used to create a standalone Zoom video because Zoom allows it to record with a different background. And I might do that because I like to vary my background. I'd rather vary it outside, but I've still got another month or two before the weather will be warm enough to do that. Then I got to deal with who have I got next to me. Can I record? Are they playing their music? I can't have music on these things. I'd love to. Music adds feeling to stuff, but every time I've tried, somebody has claimed the music as their own. It's a lie, because I've always used public domain or I've paid for it. And then YouTube won't air the video, so it sits on the shelf until they finally say, you're right, this was a false claim, you can post your video. That can take a week. And I do a daily video. I can't wait a week. So I took all my music off. I even used YouTube's own supplied music. Do you think that they would recognize that? They're bots that are looking over this stuff when they approve it. Do you think that they would realize that I'm playing their own music? But people come on there and claim it copyright so that way they can get the money. They're illegal. They should be taken out and shot because they're breaking the law big time. In your face breaking the law. But they're getting away with it. Hopefully, with our current trend to start reversing all the things of the past administrations, we can do this. But we've still got embedded stuff in here all the way back to Obama and to Clinton that have to be gotten rid of. They didn't do this overnight. People were complacent and let this stuff happen until it got so bad that they finally said enough's enough. And they're still out there. And they're coming back. And pray for Trump and his entire team, including Elon Musk, because I know that they are planning murder. They did it to the Kennedys. You think they're going to do it? They're not going to do it anymore. These are evil people. Okay, kitty, you can sit next to me, but no biting. Biting is an affection of theirs, but they have thicker skin than we do. And he has his own fur coat on, so he can bite that. If I'm wearing my jacket, he can bite my arm. No. No biting. No biting. No biting. Get him, kitty. Go play. All right. It's finally gotten light enough outside. I might give you a little shot about what the lake looks like going down, but it's like watching grass grow. You just kind of, yeah, not ready to mow yet. I can slide open my blind here. It's moved out about 5 feet, 4 or 5 feet from where it was, but it's still too high. People could not camp in some of the camping spots because it's too high. All right. So our commands, 1 Peter 5:2. Feed the flock of God which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint. Don't give. Ever give. Don't give to me. Don't give to any other ministry. Don't give to someone coming to the door or someone online. Begrudgingly. Give from the heart, from God's heart. You have a new heart to replace your old one. We've had a heart transplant. You can still turn the old one back on, but if you're working off the new one, give out of the love of God. We're told to tithe. Well, tithing is a very specific donation to God. If you have to do that begrudgingly, don't do it. God doesn't not want it. He doesn't need your money. If you're giving to somebody that's poor, that's a form of tithing. So anytime you're giving to help God's people, you're tithing. You don't have to necessarily give it to the church. Okay. Neither as being lords over God's heritage, but being in samples to the flock. We are to set a good example. I am concerned for those pastors out there that live in $1 million mansions and have aircraft and drive in fancy new cars. I'm reminded of a TV show, Columbo. He was the best detective. Now, of course, this is fiction, but go with me, work with me. This is somebody's mind come up with this idea, and then the writers give to him. And Peter Falk did an excellent job of that, and he was acting. Even some of that accent stuff, the mannerisms and that was not his normal behavior. He was acting. He got many awards for it. And I'll tell you a trick at the end. But he had an old, beat-up car. They could have had fancy cars. I don't know what they had to do to keep that thing in real life running, but it was an old car. That trench coat that he wore was his personal trench coat. He wore it in one day and said, I want to wear this as my character because he wants to look like a bum, basically. It puts people off. If you come in nice, fancy, we watched Law and Order and some of these other guys, and they come in their fancy legal ties and stuff like that. They look professional, well-to-do. That can put people off if you're trying to trap them. If you're trying to get them to confess that they're a sinner, they're talked to someone who's lesser than them before they're talked to somebody who's higher than them. So don't come in all fluty. You want to come in humbly. 5:4. And when the chief shepherd shall appear, you shall receive a crown of glory that fadeth not away. We all Christians get at least one crown. There are multiples available, but at least one crown. And we don't know when the rapture is. We don't know when the second coming is. We don't know. The second coming, he's coming as a thief in the night. And the rapture is even less information about it. We just know he's coming. And the world won't see it. We will just be gone. However we disappear, whether we float up or whether we just snap our fingers and gone, whether we dematerialize in a beam up, however we're doing it, we're going to end up in the clouds. Now, we're not going to be standing around walking on clouds, I don't think. But that's figuratively, the clouds will hide us from us going up. They won't see us. Because the rapture is not a public event. It is a Christian-only retrieve my bride event. The second coming, the whole world's going to see him. And many are going to mourn because they're going to realize that they made a mistake. It's too late at that time. But up to that point, there's going to be Christians born during the tribulation. Many. God's going to put out one last attempt to pull in his people, and the rest of the world can see and be part of it. The two witnesses, the whole world will mourn their death because they will suffer just like they did in the Old Testament. And the 144,000 will have the knowledge of Jesus as Jews to teach the chosen people. You were supposed to be a sample of what the world is like under God, not a sample of what the world is like under Satan. All right, I got to cut this off. My one yesterday, I was able to do it. It took a little while to do. I had to watch it, but I got it uploaded, so I'm going to try again. When I first move an antenna, it takes about 2 hours before it starts to work better because it has to map the sky, decide where all the trees are at. And then once it knows where it's at, it stops going into the trees to follow the satellites. Starlink is different than Dish. Okay, we're going to do a little technical instruction here. Dish and DirecTV and HughesNet and all the other ones, you're picking up a satellite that's flying and hovering over Texas. As the Earth turns, the satellite turns. It's a synchronous orbit. It follows the Earth. So you always point to the same spot in the sky, always. But it's 20,000 miles up. I'm rounding. For normal stuff, it's okay, but for games, the kids hated it when we had satellite, because there's like a 3 to 4 second delay up and 3 to 4 second back. That meant that while they're fighting their little monsters that they're fighting on screen, they could be dead for 3 or 4 seconds and not know it, because the satellite hasn't communicated to the computer yet. So for everything but gaming, an individual satellite will work. But if you want real-time information, Starlink has satellites that are 200 to 300 miles up to 500. But the lower they can be, the less lag time, the up and back time. The problem is since they're at a low Earth orbit, LEO, they have to go faster. So they're going over 20,000 miles an hour to make up the fact that they're not up in high orbit. So they're constantly moving over the sky. So the Starlink antenna picks up the satellite. When it picks it up, follows it until it is no longer able to talk to it, because it goes behind the trees or behind, if it goes to the horizon, that's great. I have no horizon. I live in a wooded area. I've got to put my antenna back out in the field where it was. I'm probably going to put it on a pole so that I won't have this problem again. But for the time being, I have to wait for the water to go down. This happens once, maybe twice a year, so I'm not terribly concerned about putting it back on the ground. But in any case, Starlink is not working. I just applied to have my Starlink. It's raining again. Yep. It just sprinkles. The big storm, massive storm, is going north of us. It may, because a lot of this is fed by the river, it may come back down. And I'm talking again, and this is getting longer. So I need to cut this off. I'll have another video soon of me just talking again. I can talk without saying anything. All right. Trust God with everything, including your finances. Don't buy anything unless you clear it with the boss. Even if you go spend $100 on groceries, carry out your little itty-bitty bag now, you still need to check with him. Buy frugally. Don't go spend your $100 on one tin of caviar when you could buy milk and bread and butter and all the essentials, and have some canned goods. Everybody should have canned goods. It's not necessarily the best food, but if you run low, it's a staple. Everything. And eating out, for the most part, eating out should be a luxury. Once a month, depending on your income, maybe once a week. Be good stewards of God's money. And we can go on the talent parable and stuff, but I'm running out of time. Until we meet in the clouds, God bless. Quick view out my window, or out my door, I should say. I've got it open. That concrete pad was underwater yesterday. So the water is slowly going out, but my antenna base is still out there in the water someplace. There was a tree stump next to it that was up about a foot, and you can't see it, so there's at least a foot of water where the antenna base was. But it's a nice calm day. See, there's very little waves on the water. We burned, this was black, but since the rain has washed a lot of it away, and eventually it's all going to come back up green. We just got to get some warm weather. There's plenty of water, not enough temperature control. Okay, closing it off.